All right, ready to dive in. We're tackling ethical individualism.
Should be a fascinating one.
We've been exploring Rudolf Steiner's work.
Yeah, it really gets into how moral intuition works and why it's way more than just going with your gut.
Because I bet for a lot of people, ethical individualism sounds kind of like a free pass. Do whatever feels good.
Easy to see that interpretation, but it's really not that at all. Steiner was all about personal moral freedom. Yeah, but not anything goes. It's about the individual's ability to, get this, create morality. Through this process he calls moral intuition.
So, not a rule book, more like an inner compass for each situation as it comes up.
Spot on. And that's where moral intuition comes in. Not gut feelings, not emotions dictating actions. Steiner was very clear. It's pure thinking to figure out the moral truth in a specific situation.
Pure thinking. Okay. Sounds intense. A mental workout, maybe? More than just like listing pros and cons.
Oh yeah, way deeper. It's about cutting through all the noise, your own biases, stuff you assume is true, even initial emotional reactions to get to the core of what's actually right now.
So scrutinizing your own thought process as you go, making sure it's not leading you astray.
Exactly. Need an example. Picture this. You see someone who's homeless. Your heart might say, give them money. Natural, compassionate.
Right, you see a need, you want to help.
Totally. But moral intuition, it takes you a step further. It makes you ask, okay, but what's truly going to be most helpful? Both for them and thinking bigger picture, the community. Maybe instead of just cash, you connect them with a shelter, resources, job training.
Thinking long-term impact over just immediate relief, it's about understanding the deeper need.
You got it. And this is actually a key difference between ethical individualism and something like situational ethics.
Ooh, okay, because, yeah, I was going to say, if you're constantly reevaluating every single situation, how do you not just end up with moral chaos? Anything goes, no real rules.
And that's the distinction. It's not saying there are no universal truths, but that how those truths apply, that can look different depending on what you're dealing with.
All right, walk me through that. How is that different from just straight up situational ethics?
Okay, imagine a manager under huge financial pressure. Situational ethics might say, well, got to cut corners on quality to survive, right? Ends justify the means.
Tough spot. But yeah, your integrity's on the line there.
Exactly. Moral intuition, though, that makes the manager think about the deeper ethics at play. Is it ever truly right to betray your customer's trust like that? Compromise your product, even in a crisis? What message does that send?
So you're thinking beyond the immediate crisis at how this impacts your values, your relationships down the line.
Precisely. Aligning your actions with a bigger sense of right and wrong, even when it's tempting to just do what's easiest in the moment.
It's interesting. It almost feels like ethical individualism is asking more of us, not just reacting, but consciously creating an ethical response.
You've hit on something crucial, and that's where Steiner's idea of moral creativity comes in. You're not picking from some preset menu of options. It's about generating new ethical principles, new ways to understand the good based on what the situation demands.
Less following a script, more like improvising a whole new scene every time.
I like that. You got to be present in the moment, see what ethical possibilities are there that might not be obvious right away.
Okay, give me an example then. What's that moral creativity look like in action?
Sure. Say you see your neighbor struggling with a heavy load, right? Moral freedom, acting on that might be you help out of kindness. Awesome. Saw the need, met the need.
And basic good neighbor stuff, yeah.
Right. But moral creativity that sees this as a chance to build something new. Maybe you start chatting, learn about them, and boom, that one act of helping becomes this foundation for a deeper connection, a stronger sense of community. You didn't just fulfill an obligation, you made a whole new layer of ethical meaning.
That's wild. It's like you're building a better world one little interaction at a time.
Yeah.
And your moral compass is guiding you to those opportunities. But this moral intuition, it's not just some vague feeling, right?
Right. It's not mystical, not for a select few. Steiner described it as very real, very tangible, and he even laid out some signs of what it feels like when you're tapping into moral intuition.
Okay, because I gotta admit, that's the part that's always seemed kind of fuzzy to me. What does it feel like? So what does it feel like? Like a bolt out of the blue? Or more subtle?
Well, Steiner, he talks about it as heightened understanding, first off, like this aha moment where the moral truth of what you're dealing with, it just clicks. Not because someone told you, or even pure logic. It's a deeper knowing, once you've cut through all the noise and gotten to the heart of it.
Okay, so deep clarity, knowing in your bones that this is the path to take. But clarity without action, that's not enough, right?
You got it. Steiner calls the next step idealistic inspiration. It's that sense of purpose that comes when you align yourself with like your deepest held values, that surge of this is what I'm supposed to be doing, this is what truly matters.
So not just knowing, but feeling inspired to actually do it. Is that where empowerment of will comes in?
Bingo, you're right there with it. It's that inner strength, the determination to actually act on the insight, not just think about it, but you're almost compelled. Got to make it happen.
Sounds incredibly powerful, but also kind of daunting. Like, what if someone's just not wired for this whole moral intuition thing? Is this learnable, or are some people just born with a superpower sense of right and wrong?
Good news is, Steiner believed it's not some innate gift. It's a capacity we can all cultivate. And he pointed out some key practices to help with that.
Okay, because I bet our listeners are all ears right now. How do we tap into this moral compass?
First and foremost, self-awareness. Got to become a pro at observing your own thought processes. What are your biases, your ingrained patterns, the stuff influencing your judgment, even subtly?
Like holding a mirror up to your own mind, seeing the filters that shape how you see things.
Exactly. And alongside that, working on clear, rational thinking. Doesn't mean becoming an emotionless robot, but being able to think critically, analyze objectively, weigh different sides carefully.
Building up your ethical reasoning skills, basically.
Yeah. And lastly, Steiner talks about getting really sensitive to the specifics of each situation. Because remember, no one-size-fits-all moral answers in ethical individualism.
So being present in the moment, tuned into the nuances of what's actually happening, rather than slapping a label on it.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so dynamic, so challenging,
Yeah.
but ultimately so rewarding. You're always engaging, honing that compass, and trying to act in line with your best ideals.
Not passive, but an active striving. Like you said, challenging, but also super empowering.
Absolutely. And then that's key to remember, that empowerment. Because with ethical individualism, you're not just following someone else's rules. You're helping define what good even means each time.
You're like a co-creator of morality.
That's a great way to put it. Profound level of freedom, but also responsibility. You're not just reacting. You're actively shaping things by what you choose.
Which I imagine feels exciting, but maybe a little scary too. If we're all responsible for our own moral compass, so to speak, how do we make sure we're not just steering towards easy or selfish stuff? Feels like a lot of pressure.
Steiner didn't shy away from that. He knew this kind of moral freedom means constant vigilance. You got to be self-reflective, willing to challenge your own ideas.
Not just checking off a box, but an ongoing thing, lifelong commitment to refining that inner compass.
100%. That's maybe the biggest takeaway here. Ethical individualism's not a destination. It's the journey. Always trying to deepen your empathy, your understanding, engage with the world in a way that matches your most cherished values.
That resonates, that journey idea. Not about being perfectly morally clear, but showing up, doing the work every day.
You got it. And the beauty is there's always more to learn, to discover about ourselves, the world. Each encounter, each dilemma, it's a chance for growth. It's embracing the journey, even when it's tough. Because those tough parts, those crossroads,
Sure.
that's where the biggest growth happens.
And that process, that's what's inspiring about ethical individualism.
Couldn't agree more. It's a call to action. To really own your ability to make moral choices and build a world reflecting your highest hopes. We're not just bystanders here. We're architects, builders, caretakers, all of it, in a world that never stops changing.
Even the smallest things, the everyday choices, they ripple out, shaping the world around us. Can't take that lightly.
Exactly. And that brings up another big piece of moral intuition, interconnectedness. Yeah, ethical individualism is about personal responsibility, but not a vacuum. Our choices always affect others, ripple out into everything.
So important, not just me freedom, but realizing we're woven together and our actions contribute to the bigger picture.
You got it. We're not isolated. We're part of something huge, community, society, web of life, all evolving. And our moral choices, those acts of intuition, they're shaping that evolution. We're always navigating this web of personal values, cultural norms, what society thinks is right or wrong, all changing constantly.
So where do you even start applying moral intuition then, with all that variation? Like, my inner compass might point a different way than yours, even if we're both trying to do good.
Exactly. And that's where pure thinking, like Steiner talked about, becomes so essential. Not enough to just feel something's right, got to really reflect, make sure those feelings aren't just echoes of your own biases, how you were raised, assumptions you haven't really examined.
So it's like, is this really right for the situation, or am I letting my own stuff cloud my judgment?
Perfectly put.
So to everyone listening, Keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and keep working towards building a world that reflects your best self, your highest values. This has been the Deep Dive, and we'll catch you next time as we dive into more ideas that matter.